live? We're live.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Hi, Mac. Welcome. I'm up in Edmonton tonight doing a little recon for us. And how are you down in Calgary?
Chris, I'm great. Super excited. I have a new stand-up desk. I think it's our second round at it. And we've got some great experience in the weeds tonight, sitting back in our virtual studio. We've been stewing just before the show to go live. And I'm excited about our conversation tonight. What are we doing, Chris?
Well, first off, quick apology to everybody for being a little delayed here. We had a little technical difficulty with some freezing going on, but here's what we got going on. Viller from Singlekey is going to give us a little input tonight on his program. Very timely considering the types of questions on the page. So he's going to talk about his rent guarantee program, rent collection that they have, some of the insurances that come along with being a part of Singlekey. Talk about background checks, and also we had some questions about screening tenants. So Viller will give us some input. We hope to have him for the whole hour. He has a lot of knowledge and a lot of background. We got Uncle Bill, Bill Biko from, which we are affectionately refer to him as Uncle Bill, but he's from the Educated Landlord. He has his own program. So he's going to join us tonight with his very valued perspective. You'll see him occasionally answering questions on there on the page. We also, it will be our inaugural broadcast on the Saskatchawen Landlord page. Although some of our, what's that?
Community. It's a Saskatchewan Landlord Community.
Oh, sorry, Saskatchewan Landlord Community. So a SLC, there you go. And basically some of the general business practices are same, although we have some different rules. But we can apply a lot of the same theories. An upcoming show will be where we're trying to organize landlords from all the different provinces, and just to show you how good we have it in Alberta. So we're trying to line some landlords up from across the province. Other topics tonight we would like to talk on are sweat equity. We will, of course, want to talk about questions from the page. We're going to go through some of those. And of course, your questions live from the page. You put something up that tweaks with you, or you want to know something, we'll try to talk about it. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a coffee, tea, or other beverage that suits you, and join us for an hour of Landlord Shop Talk. There we go. Mac, over to you.
Perfect. I froze. I think I'm back. I can see three of you guys nodding. Okay, I am live. That's a fantastic feeling to have when you're not talking to yourself. You're talking to other people. Great show tonight. Yeah, like we do have Villa, co-founder and CEO of Singlekey. He's got a very cool new program. I was fortunate to do the beta testing on the rent collection. Pretty thrilled with the results, and I'm sure Villa will dive into those great details. And did you talk about your sweat equity, Chris, and some of those cool things about that kind of conversation as well as like you did, questions off the gate. So, and one more quick plug before we get into the content of tonight's show. We do have a new community joining in with us, Saskatchewan Landlord Community. Any of those Saskatchewan landlords that it has interest in coming on one of our future shows as we bring the landlords across the different provinces of this great country called Canada, please let us know and reach out to Chris or myself, and we can get that queued up with you. All right.
Absolutely.
Let's get into think of it. Viller, I know out east it's after 10 o'clock your time, so thank you for doing this night show with us. We'll call it the night hour.
That's right.
You've got some new changes. What's been happening simply? It's been over, I think, last year, the last time we had you on. Is that how long it's been?
It's been, well, yeah, it's been a few months. I think we were here maybe about 6 months ago, earlier in the year. So it's great to kind of be here and to chat with the community and you guys as well. And I love the new intro, by the way. That's really smooth. I'm a big fan.
Perfect.
Yeah. So at Singlekey, we're always, our mission as a company is always to really do everything we can to help empower landlords to take the risk out of renting. And the way we do that is by basically helping you screen your tenants, collect your rent, and make sure that we can, guarantee that rent as well. The latest announcement from us is that we just launched our Singlekey rent collection tool. This will be the first free automated rent collection tool available to all Canadian landlords. And I'm going to drop a quick link onto the chat here, and I'm not sure if you can share that with the community.
Perfect.
Yeah, and obviously, if you go to our website at singlekey.com, you can just go directly to rent collection to learn a bit more. Now, what's different about this rent collection tool, guys, is that this came as a result of getting a lot of feedback from our landlord customers. On a weekly basis, we get calls, saying that, hey guys, I just had the most unpleasant experience with the tenant. And if it's possible, I'd love to report them to you so that other landlords can avoid, renting to them possibly, right? And we get that kind of requests on a regular basis. And the challenge was that we couldn't really figure out a way to really we couldn't really create a bad tenant list in that sense, because there were some compliance and legal challenges that went along with it, and others have tried and got in trouble for it. So what we thought about is said, hey, look, our forte is really in the technology side. So, we looked around, we noticed that there's no real easy automated kind of rent collection tool out there for small Canadian landlords. So we said, okay, well, let's just build that out. So this way we're adding value in two different ways. One, we're allowing people to basically save time by collecting their rent automatically through our PAD platform for free. And two, these payments now will be reported to our credit bureau partners at Equifax and TransUnion on a monthly basis, just like a trade line. So it'll be paying your rent now as a tenant will be the same as paying your credit card. On a monthly basis, we'll be able to report on-time payments, delayed payments, and missed payments to them. And this is great for a couple of reasons. On the tenant side, it's great for them because it allows them to use their biggest expense on a monthly basis, which is their rent payments, to actually to build a credit history. And that's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's great for somebody who's a student, they're just basically starting to develop their credit history. This gives them a bit of a jump start. Or if you're new to credit and you're looking to develop your credit without going into debt, this is a great way to do that as well. On the other hand as well, landlords love this because it brings a bit of transparency in the relationship they have with their tenant, because now there is a credit reporting agency where these payments are being reported to. And it provides an incentive for the tenants to make sure that they pay their rent on time and in full, as opposed to constantly late or through missed payments, because it'll affect their credit score. So, it's something that's been in development now for over 6 months. The rent collection, we've had a rent collection kind of a feature as part of a rent guarantee program that we've, included for free as part of that program. But now we're excited to actually launch that and make it available to everybody. And it'll be free for up to 3 concurrent leases. So you can actually collect up to 3 rent collections at the same time, free of charge on our platform for an indefinite amount of time. And we're working to come up with a bit of a paid plan for any additional leases on top of those 3, and that'll probably be we'll release the details around that in the coming months.
Well, Viller, I might know a few landlords interested in that. So if you want to keep the folks over here at Alberta Landlord Community up to date, be sure to spread the word. My perspective from beta testing it was pretty easy. Just like sign up to do a PAD pre-authorized debit for your utilities or any kind of recurring bill, or like TELUS, for example. Did that, sent off a link to my tenant. She didn't complain. And next month it came out clean and there hasn't been any problems. I wasn't aware that you were doing credit reporting on the side, so that feature is interesting. So when did that part of the rent collection always? Is that a new feature that you guys layered in?
This is a new feature, and for us, this has been in the works for over 6 months now. At the end of the day, it is payment, so we want to make sure that we've got it right. And thanks for being one of the beta testers that helped us really work out some of the bugs during this Q&A process. As we were going through that 6-month process, we also got in touch with our bureaus to inquire about reporting the payments, and they were actually very interested in this because apparently the credit bureaus are looking for a way to develop a rental score now in addition to a credit score. So they're getting in touch with a lot of the property management companies out there, your big PM softwares like Yardi and Buildium, to be able to plug into those rental payments. But at the same time, the challenge they're having is that they have no way to access the single family homes or the small landlord population, since a lot of those rent payments are done informally through e-transfers or checks. So the goal here is really to build a bit of a a go-to place for collecting your rent through pads for free, to automate the process, save some time, and obviously bring everybody in the same place so we can actually report these payments to the bureaus and help tenants build credit.
Well, we're definitely in a data-driven economy nowadays with so much more information online. This is just a next logical step. And one of our other partners does do the same thing, rent reporting. So it's good to see you guys come on board and provide a similar feature. So I think it just benefits the community at large very well.
Absolutely.
Chris or Bill, you want to jump in and ask Villa some questions while we've got him here?
Well, let's throw Kimberly's question up to Villa right away. If you can read that on the screen there, Villa.
Yeah, I'll read it out. Will it matter if the tenant is a family member? The other platform would not let us set a rent report or let me read this. Yeah, the other platform would not let us set up a report our daughter who rents one of our homes. Oh, okay. Even though our company owns the home, just curious. So yeah, there's a good question. What about family ties and rent reporting, Villa?
That's an interesting question, Kimberly. And I'm trying to think of what the reason for that would be. Now, the nice thing about relying on a rent collection tool to go along with payment reporting is that it helps us make the reporting a bit more transparent and black and white. The challenge we have when it comes to reporting a tenant default is that there's a component of he said, she said. You have to check to make sure that you've got both sides of the story, and then you have to also double check with the tenant to make sure that they haven't caught up on those rent payments, etc. So for us, it's a fairly straightforward implementation. It's basically we just set up that rent collection as a trade line. It doesn't matter who you are or what relationship you have to the landlord, as long as you consent to obviously utilizing the pre-authorized debit rent collection tool. Your rent payments, regardless of who your landlord is, will be reported to the credit bureau.
Perfect. That's awesome. And Kimberly just follows up the comment. They indicated it was a conflict of interest. So interesting. But maybe all the information wasn't available, but that's good feedback.
That's an interesting corner case, and I could see some potential for gaming there on the system. But I'd have to check with our legal counsel to get.
If you take it away, Villa, that'd be great. If you do find something different, definitely post it to our community, because that would be good learnings just so we know as a whole.
Absolutely.
I wonder if it's a little bit of this is just my different perspective. It's asking permission versus begging forgiveness. If they were a little too upfront, run your business. It's a company name. You're putting someone else in. You know what? Sometimes things are left better unsaid, and you just do it. One day you'll get caught, and if you are a problem, and then you'll have to answer to it, and you've spoiled all your opportunities. If you're going to be legit about it, sure. There's a bad apple in every bag, no matter what we're doing in life. So you'll eventually get caught, but just run a legit business and legit reporting, and it shouldn't be a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. And I guess the other thing too is kind of a nice fit is targeting at three concurrent leases is a nice fit into the mom and pop landlord, which is the majority of our community. Whereas I've gone down, I think there's Rent Moolah. A few years back when I did a bunch of research because I wanted to automate this and not collect e-transfers and make it a little more seamless. And there wasn't really an affordable option for the mom and pop landlord. So it's a good fit into the market segment, and we appreciate it, Villa.
Absolutely. And we studied the market. We know that our average user or landlord, independent landlord, has about 2.5 properties on average, across Canada. That's your average number of leases. So this will be able to help most people. And, in the coming months, if we see a lot of interest for increasing the free tier on the product, we're going to consider expanding it to 5 leases as well.
Well, folks, you know where to find Viller on Alberta Landlord Community. Just do an @ symbol and type in Viller, and you can give him a comment.
Absolutely.
Viller, could you touch real quickly then before we get over to Bill here a little bit about the rent guarantee that you have? People have asked on the page, and I tag you every once in a while, but the reason I tag you, because I know you can go right at it and answer the question but much better than me, but if you could just skim on that again, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a great kind of like interlude. The rent collection product now is a great kind of insertion between the two products that we have. We have our tenant screening solution to help you screen the tenant up front before you put them on a lease. And then now we have this rent collection tool once the tenant has been approved for the lease to be able to automate rent collection. And then the third step would be to then guarantee your rent to make sure that you get it even if tenants default on that rent payment. So the way the rent guarantee works for Singlekey is that this is an insurance product, and we are backed by Lloyd's as our reinsurer. So they are the ones that pay on the claims on here and take on the risk. The rent guarantee guarantees the rent to landlords for up to 12 months or up to $60,000 if tenants default or don't pay their rent payment. And our typical processes will take about 2 weeks to check in with the tenant to make sure that, to figure out if they're going to pay or not. And if they don't, we'll serve the first eviction notice either ourselves or through our local paralegal in the area where the tenant's living. And then we'll have to give them the typical 10 or 14 days waiting period before we can then move forward with the filing for the eviction hearing. As soon as we file for the eviction hearing, that's when we actually start covering the first rent payment to the tenant, or to the landlord, sorry, for the lost rent. And then we keep going and covering the rent until the eviction process is completed and the tenant has vacated the unit. As part of the rent guarantee program as well, we basically hire somebody or a paralegal team to take care of the eviction process on your behalf, so you don't have to go through that stressful process yourself. And we'll cover their fees for up to $1,500, which should be sufficient to, for the typical eviction of the tenant. And then the last piece I'd mention is that we also have a $10,000 damage protection component there. So in case there's any really any damage above and beyond wear and tear, so willful damage, vandalism to the property, we're able to reimburse you up to $10,000 of that in the event, if we can prove the damages in court during the eviction process.
Cool.
Excellent.
I'm going to segue and then we'll get Bill in, who's patiently been waiting in his new HD camera. By the way, so you're busy in the 14th, Bill, for coffee, but I just like to meet up with you.
Early, though. That's later in the day.
Yeah. Viller, I know that we're pretty lucky. We've negotiated some discounts. What are the discounts for our community that we get being partnered with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to actually kind of, I knew this was going to come up, MacKenzie, and we hadn't chatted beforehand. So I actually kind of wrote down some ideas. So what I'd like to offer the ALC community, and obviously the Saskatchewan group as well, is through our partnership, all ALC members will get their first rent guarantee fee waived for Singlekey. So your first month's on us if you'd like to try it out. In terms of timing as well, this is a great time because coming out of the summer during COVID, we did have some restrictions on our coverage and our rent guarantee, and I think that came up in the group a few times. That was something that we had to basically enforce through our underwriters, and the way that worked is that we just basically pause the coverage during the extent of the eviction freeze. And as soon as the courts resumed evictions, we would then basically resume the coverage and start the eviction process and cover all of that for you. But now all that is gone, so we're back to full coverage and business as usual. So we're very happy to kind of come out of that very high risk period.
That's great news.
And we'll just remind the Saskatchewan landlord community, as long as you're a member of ALC, you also can benefit from these codes and discounts. So keep in touch with us, and we'll keep in touch with you.
Yeah, we didn't tell Viller, by the way, but I'll give you some information after the show, Viller. Yeah. Oh,
sorry, I spoiled the basket there. Like you said, there's always one bad apple in the package, eh? Over to Bill.
I got nothing. No, kidding. This is great. And I can see this even from a marketing angle when you're trying to market your properties, that you can help tenants build up their credit. And depending on what your market is, especially if you're doing student rentals, this could be huge for you. Because now you've got the best of both worlds. You're reporting and collecting, and you have all this happening with that little fear of, hey, this is going to affect your credit rating if you don't pay. So There's just a lot of positives. And when you incorporate that into your marketing, that's also going to help you weed out a lot of those people we don't want in anyway. So yeah, lots of great things with this.
I love it. I absolutely. I was gonna say I love, because that's exactly what I've been doing for years now. With another service provider. I'll mention it. We're partners with the Landlord Credit Bureau as well. And that was their big thing is they do two things. They actually have a legal database for managing the tenant list, which you said. Some people have done it not so well. There's other providers in the industry, but it works so well when you can tell a tenant, yeah, I can help you build your credit score, and quite versely, damage your score if you're coming in with ill intent, and it filters a lot of BS and tire kickers right off the hopping. When you're actually talking to qualified tenants, it speeds up that process, and it's a great filtering tool. So a win-win all around.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't gotten a lot of pushback. I mean, this is PAD rent collection, something we've always done. We've always done as part of our rent guarantee program, and it's something that most property managers currently do as a way to kind of just more efficiently run their business. And a lot of tenants are typically used to it, and it also helps you not have to just kind of not have to remember to send an e-transfer on a monthly basis, and not have to go to the bank and order a checkbook and wait 2 weeks for it to show up. So there's a bit of a convenience factor there as well.
Yeah. You bring up an interesting perspective. I got a private message actually yesterday from a lady who has 2 students. The student called and said the furnace won't work, and then they had ATCO come in and a couple other technicians, and she said that the ATCO said don't start the furnace, there's a problem with it. A couple other technicians were kind of back and forth. One guy says, oh yeah, there's no problem, I can fix it. There was never any carbon monoxide issue presented, but there was an issue that the furnace needs to be replaced. So she agreed, she'd replace the furnace. And they got that underway and rolling. And then the tenant played the card of, yeah, we don't feel safe here anymore, so we're going to leave. But the furnace was changed. So they want to break the lease. As far as I'm concerned, Bill, you can add in, and of course the rest of you, but I don't think that's a valid reason to break a lease because you remedied the problem with a new furnace. However, it goes back to what you were saying, and Mac, was these kids are students, and now they want to break a lease and go bad on it, and the parent co-signs. So 3 people, if we go to this credit reporting, could ultimately be affected. And you as a landlord now have a new tool to maybe point out, said, just so you know, here's the consequences of your choices.
And Chris, you just highlighted the power of a co-signer, which is so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bill, what do you think?
Lots of different layers with that one. So there's a lot of blowback with the university students and college students right now because some of them aren't even going to class. So we're in a unique timeline right here. All these kids have signed year leases and now discovered they didn't even have to come to Calgary to go to school. So where do you draw that line? And kind of balance that off with, if they do leave, how much will it cost me for them to leave versus how much more might I possibly get in rent? So you got lots of questions you got to answer. The good guy thing would be to let them to break the lease, but hold them to the fact that they're responsible until you fill it. So cooperate with me. We'll get new people in. And as long as I'm making the same rent, we make it work. We've got co-signers. So as you said, there could be repercussions if you don't go through with what we're proposing. So let's all just play together, get it rented again as fast as possible, and move forward.
Yeah. I try to make it easy for my renters. I just go with you have a 2-month rent break fee. So they lose if the place is clean and they leave properly, they'll lose their damage deposit plus pay 1 month's rent. But of course, my obligation is to ensure that it's rented as timely as possible. But if not, they're out of it after 2 months. So, there are some little things you can do, I guess.
Villa, from your side out in Ontario, do you know if classes are back in or is that still on the table as well for students out there?
It's a hybrid approach here for a lot. So they do give the students the ability to choose. As for now, they do have the ability to come to class, and some can actually dial in from home as well. And especially with the leases, it's definitely caused a bit of havoc now, just not being sure if class is in or out. But they did announce that, in this spring, a lot of the, if things go the way that they're going, that they may actually lift all restrictions and hopefully go back to normal by March. So that's a positive.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Cool.
Where do you want to go now, Mac? Do you want to head over to some of our topics here? We're at the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, sure. So we got a few questions off the page, and we also were going to talk about the pros and cons of sweat equity. So let's do the questions first. I can probably hammer out pretty quickly, and then because I already have them queued up too, so I don't have to change my setup. But we'll do that, and then
It's all about you, Mac.
yeah, and then we'll rock and roll. So let's see if I can do it this way. Oh my God, organized. Okay. Catherine Watson said over an hour ago, she asked, I'm wondering if Rentfaster is basically the best place to advertise your rental home in Calgary. Thank you. So I got a pro tip on this, but I'll go to the two Alberta boys here first. We'll go with Bill and then Chris. How do you guys look for renters? So Bill's in Calgary. And then Chris is in beautiful Ponoka, Alberta, which is a population of about 5 of my fingers. And then I know, Villa, you're out by Toronto. So I'd be curious on how you judge this as well when you're trying to find the best advertising platform for your rental. So, Bill, to you.
Well, I'm going to take your window because it's the same technique that you talk about as well. I deal with landlords all over the country, all over North America, and it's the same trick all the time. Do a Google search. If you got a 3-bedroom townhouse, put a Google search in there, 3-bedroom townhouse, and then whatever district and city you're in, see what those top 3 to 5 results are, and be there. If the market's tighter, you want to be in all of them. If the market's really good, maybe you only want to be in the top 1 or 2. But if that's where all the search results are showing up, you want to be there. You can add on, Facebook doesn't show up in the Google search results. And a lot of people are finding some good success with Facebook as well. But you've got the extra challenge of having all these canned responses on Facebook that are a real pain in the butt because it's so easy for somebody just to hit a button and say, is this still available? Of course it's still available. I just posted it. That's why it's up there.
Well, you can fight canned responses with canned responses, right, Bill? So
yeah,
I've got a very long text message in my notes that get copied and pasted quite quickly when I get a canned answer or a canned response. So
yeah. So
okay.
A lot of people are using Facebook as well, but if you use a combination, the priority is get your property filled. So be everywhere if you can, and just get it done.
Hey, Uncle Bill, what's your tolerance level for over and over same questions?
We discussed that earlier, and this is a family-friendly show, so we're done.
Okay, carry on, Mac.
So Chris, how do you find? Where do you advertise for rentals in Ponoka? How do you determine the best place to advertise?
What I found is that people will reach out from a community to another one to find out if there's a local rental. They just type in, for example, Ponoka rentals, and a Facebook page will come up. They'll join it, and we go from there. A lot of my places, I'm really working hard in developing a word of mouth, and I have had a lot of good renters come to me from other landlords and other renters, each looking out after one another. And I've referred lots of people back to other people. So we kind of got a neat little community. The market, there are a few vacancies. So before they'll refer somebody to me, they're going to scoop them up if they're any good, as I would. But after that, once they're full, then we have a good relationship in Ponoka with people referring to people. Plus, if we have some difficult or challenged individuals within the community, we're also notifying each other within and tagging each other within our Facebook page, ALC as well. So, you know what? I don't reach out too far just because I get overwhelmed with the click. Is this still available? Absolutely drives me nuts. Ask me what you need to ask me. I almost don't respond to, is this still available? Because it's just a click, and a lot of times it's accidental. So,
well, I can show you a copy and paste trick after the show here, Chris. Basically what Brenda does, I do the same thing. I have like I already mentioned, pre-selected list. It's the same standard questions typically. So if you're going to ask them, have them somewhere where you can copy and paste them quickly in the response. Viller, how about you guys in Toronto? I mean, that's a big market right there. So how do people find where to advertise?
No, this is a great question. I'm happy to kind of just share my thoughts on it, MacKenzie. So in the chat here, we actually did an analysis on this earlier in the year, and we have basically this web traffic tool that we can kind of like use to measure the number of visitors on every website on a monthly basis. So we rank like the top 10 kind of popular rental websites across Canada. in the rental section in terms of how much exposure your listing will get on each of those sites. So definitely scroll through there. There's even a big table at the end that even compares like the features that are available on, Kijiji versus Craigslist versus Rentfaster versus Facebook Marketplace. We've seen a bit of a shift. So we've seen that here in Ontario, there's definitely been a big shift from the traditional kind of venues like Kijiji was the big one, popular one. Now everybody's onto Facebook Marketplace, and there's some pros and cons with that. The nice thing about Facebook Marketplace is at least you know who you're talking to, because people have to actually set up an account, so you're not dealing with anonymous inquiries. You can get a sense of, hey, who is this person that we're speaking? Maybe flip through their pictures, get a good feel for them and their lifestyle, which is helpful. On the other hand, you're right. It's the what you communicated there, Chris, is that a lot of people, hey, is this available? When can I see it? So the way to deal with a lot of those questions, and this is something that we actually worked together, if you guys recall, a few months back. At Singlekey, we created this basically a pre-screening form that we encourage landlords to actually include in their listings. And it's just a small link. It's available for free if you have a Singlekey account. And it'll ask the key questions that you want to basically pre-screen those tenants before you invite them for the viewing. So it'll be things like, hey, what's your name? Contact information. Do you have a job? How many people are moving into the unit? When are you guys ready to move? How many people were living in the place, etc., to be able to kind of just have that first layer of screening. I know some folks do that informally through like a Google form, but that's a great way to kind of just put that in the listing and say, hey, look, if you're interested in this unit, just click below and answer a few questions so we can get to know you a bit better and make sure it's a good fit for you guys. And
name of the game, pre-qualification for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and just to add on, and Brenda bring up a really good point I want to highlight too, is a same tool in different markets might have different demographics. So, and what I mean by that, you might have maybe an older demographic using perhaps something a little bit older like Kijiji, and then maybe if you're trying to target students, for example, if that's your target demographic, it might make more sense to be online somewhere else, different listing portals, maybe a university portal. The people that search the different platforms have a demographic trend. So, depending on your product set and what you're renting out, if it's an executive rental down to an entry-level townhouse to a rooming house down by the trade schools to wherever, there's going to be different avenues that will make the most sense. So probably the value in this is you got to try to use more than one platform. If you don't have any apples to apple comparison of what's working for you, you're not going to know if your advertising is actually working or not. So another tidbit on that. Cool. That's a great, well-rounded response. So let's kind of keep this going here. Let me just do this. And we did a comment up here. Let's add this one right now. Kimberly says, remember when you bought your local newspaper and scrolled through the for rent section and it had to physically call the landlord? And I remember it was like, how well did you know your acronyms? Because you only had like 50 characters to work with, or maybe even 20 if I'm dating myself here. That's cool. Okay.
Do you know what a newspaper is, Mac?
I've got ink on my fingers before from the Sunday cartoons, so I have a little bit of knowledge. Yeah, very good. Okay, Kelly writes a really good question, and we were actually debating this before the show kicked off. So she's got a tenant that's, I'm going to paraphrase here. She's got a tenant, or he, sorry, I'm going to say, they have a tenant that's continuously late. They've been late for August, September, and October rents, and every time each of the months happen, they've issued a 14-day notice for late rent, and then that tenant pays within the 14 days, negating the notice. So they're happy, they're excited. November 30th is the end of their fixed term lease. They're obviously not renewing. Their concern is if they advertise early and their tenant gets wind of it, they're not going to get their November rent. They are wondering, what would you guys do? Which is, I thought was kind of interesting, because normally my gut instinct is get that product on the market, get it advertised, get new applications coming in. But if it costs you or makes it much more difficult to collect last month's rent, especially if it's again $1,000, $1,500, I would actually be more prone to maybe holding off and getting that rent in, and then once that rent's in your account, then marketing full bore ahead. But gentlemen, what do you think? Chris, I'm going to throw this to you, then Bill, and then Biller.
Well, I kind of got a little more of a strategic approach to it. Where Bill, which we talked, he's got his approach to it, which I kind of think is a great way too. Is basically, I play their game. I wouldn't tell them I'm not renewing until I had the money in hand. just in case they held it back. That's just my suspicious nature that comes out, and then at that point I'd say I'm done, and I would tell them that if they couldn't move out, I would extend it 1 month only, and that if they didn't pay me on time on the first, or that I would be proceeding with a residential tenancy dispute at their expense. So I'd kind of play that card. Whether I'd play the card, whether I'd actually use it, or sorry, I'd hold the card. Whether I'd actually use it would be a different story because of the little bit of an expense and extra work. But that's me. Bill, what would you do?
Well, I'd play it a little bit nicer. I would give them advance notice. I would let them know, and I actually left a comment on there that Kelly saw, basically saying, hey, due to whatever, we're not renewing. The lease will be over at the end of the month, but I want this to work out nicely. So just so you're aware, I still need rent on the first. Can't use your damage deposit as rent. That's just not how it works. And if we don't get rent on the first, we'll have to move forward with whatever means necessary, which can affect you long-term as far as getting places in the future. So let's just make it work. So I've found that works quite well, putting that little pressure card on them that I can make life hell for them later if they don't. And I just have to make sure I follow up if they don't carry through with what they're supposed to do.
Interesting.
I think that comes straight down to why you get the Uncle Bill and I get the evil stepbrother. So titles.
and Viller, how would you deal with this?
Well, I think, and we actually just kind of went through an eviction process here this month for somebody that's constantly late on their rent since December of last year, and every single month he's always two weeks behind. And the problem with that is it creates a lot of overhead that's unnecessary, right? Yeah. And I think that at least a nice thing, a tool that's available to Alberta landlords, which is not available everywhere in Canada, is you're able to charge a late fee. And I think that's probably a good incentive to add to the lease, so that at least if they're taking up more of your time, you can at least kind of recoup some of that cost, and also incentivize people to actually make their payments on time, so they're not end up paying that extra $20 or $40 a month on the pay payments.
Cool.
Mac, I just want to say that Bill, you do soften me up when I talk to you, and that's why sometimes you get those behind the scenes calls from me, and I say, Bill, here's my problem. This is what I want to do, but what should I really do? So Brenda, just so you know, I'll put your post up here. She says she agrees with Bill. I guess behind the scenes I do too, but I wanted to put up a little harder case for confidence to some people. But I appreciate your response, Bill.
I like it. And Brenda's saying advertise right away. You know what? Now as I've sit and listened to you guys kind of brainstorm about this, my additional thought is we're going into November. The lease ends end of November. Then what's the next month? December, the worst time of the year to be renting. Get that product on the market, and then do the legal means to chase after that last month's rent. Or maybe if you're lucky and the property is not even damaged, you don't need to use most of the damage deposit, put that towards that last month's rent. Hopefully you don't have to, but something to keep in mind anyways. So let's hop on to the next question. Angus writes, this is kind of an interesting take, but I thought, let's share this question. Let me just get this cleared out for you guys. Stove under warranty. Technician comes out November 15th. So let's call that a little over 2 weeks. 2 burners not working. What am I supposed to do? Wait or repair it myself? And I believe in the comments too that the tenant was bugging him, hence why he's asking this question. You know what, Viller, I'll let you go first, and then I'll follow up with Uncle Bill, and then Chris.
So the stove under warranty, technician coming on November 15th. So right, so 2 weeks not working. Yeah, it depends. I think this is one of those things that is really up to your relationship with the tenant, right? If and mind you, that having a functioning stove is definitely something that's important for a lot of people. So I if you have the ability to kind of, obviously the property's close to you and you have the ability to actually make that repair yourself, that's probably your best option. Otherwise, you just have to let them know that there is a bit of a timing issue there, and then you've tried your best to actually get somebody there as soon as possible. And November 15th is the earliest that they can arrive there. If there's anything else on the other end to kind of compensate for the wait that you can do, I definitely would encourage that as well, just to continue building that goodwill with the tenant.
Cool.
Bill.
I agree with Viller. This is one of those things, if you're a little bit handy and it's just a regular stove and you're close by, go over there and swap burners and see if the burners work in the new spot. You'll know quickly that it's just a burner issue. And then you talk to the technician and say, hey, how about I just bring you the bad burners? We swap them out. I can do it on my own and get it done. Now, that comes down to what kind of stove it is and what kind of tenants they are. And I did kind of just gloss over this one before, but some people had pointed out how many people use more than 2 burners on a stove anyway. So,
Right.
I mean, it's not going to kill them to have the 2 burners, especially if you're working on it, especially during, here we bring up COVID times again, but there's delays with stuff. It's taken a little bit longer to get things done. So it's not unrealistic to take 2 weeks. I mean, if the stove was dead or, we talked about a furnace being dead for a month, that's entirely different. This is just a couple weeks. It's not completely out of the way. And you can just do the quick troubleshoot if necessary to find out where you're going with it.
I love it. I'm gonna just add in Brenda's comment after we get Chris's take on this. Chris, law enforcement, Chris, what would you do, buddy?
I don't really have much of an answer. I guess the question in Bill's will say who uses 4 burners anyway. I guess my answer to that is whoever heats their house. So.
You know what? There's no practical difference to the use of the rental property. All basic needs are covered. I can count on one hand how often I've got 4 burners running, unless I've got Hello Plate or Hello Fresh or Chef's Plate that's giving me the extra thing I have to get cooking because I don't know how to cook. So I just follow those instructions, but they're quite functional at that. And I think this comes down to expectation setting and great communication and managing expectations. So,
I don't know about this not cooking thing of yours. I had a great mac and cheese meal down there that day. You did well.
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Where we're going with Brenda, she's I like that she's responding to your last take there. In my early days, it's more of a tough nut. But yeah, you know what? Buy them a burner. One of those plug-in, what do you call them? Hot plates, right? If it was really that bad.
So hot plates can be an insurance issue, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So they can actually void your insurance in some cases.
Are you speaking from experience, Bill?
Yeah.
Oh,
so what about an induction system then?
Induction would be different, but then they also need induction pots to work with it.
Yeah. That's a whole spider web
in
there.
the rooming house world, that was one of the first questions in all the insurance. Do you have hot plates? Oh, yes. Well, then we can't insure you. Oh,
Okay.
No, I don't.
Oh.
Pro tip: if you got an induction thing you can lend them, tell them to grab a fridge magnet, stick it to their pot. If it sticks, your induction burner will work. If it won't, tell them deal with 2 burners and the technician will be out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, again, not really affecting the quality they live in. So if they're kind of trying to grind you on rent deductions for the 2 weeks and they got booked, and I guess the other thing too, if it's under warranty, I wouldn't dick with it because I don't want to avoid my warranty, especially this guy coming out. I did tech he or she coming out to fix it. Just leave it as is. So, So sweat equity, Chris, this was your topic here. So I'm going to let you run with this. The pros and cons of doing sweat equity. Is it really worth it? Well, where do you want to go with this, Chris? Paint us a picture, Chris.
Well, I think one of the things we talk about on the page is how do you afford to be a landlord? How do some people are accidental landlords, and I think those people really have to dig in and become one of those sweat equity people, because you can barely afford, if you can, to have the renter in. You may be having to top up the rent, and if something does go wrong, you need to be able to fix something. So having YouTube and TikTok, yes, believe it or not, TikTok, there's some great advice on there. The 15-second guy who does mudding and patches holes up, and some of the tricks that are there.
I did not see this conversation going this way. You have TikTok tips?
I didn't do a TikTok. I follow some key people on TikToks. I do the Traeger guys who do the smoking, and I follow a couple construction guys. And you know what? I've caught up on some tricks that really helped me speed through my latest sweat equity project. So, I'm in a little unique position here after being retired. I do have some time to do this stuff, and people go, Yeah, there's that guy. He's got, so how can he even talk on this subject? I didn't, though. I didn't have it when I took on. I had 4 rentals and I didn't take it on. And I had a partner that wouldn't do anything. So I had to take my time to get in there because it needed to be a positive cash flow. And I put my sweat equity into my places. And now being retired, certainly I do enjoy doing it. But there's days I'll tell you, I said, I just wish I would hire somebody, but I'll get to that point where I'll do it. But right now I just want to promote people to take the time to learn how to change the, let's go with simple stuff at first. Learn how to change your furnace filter. Go figure out what that's about. Don't call a technician. Step it up a notch. And the newer furnaces who have the flame sensors and the igniters, they are a $30 flame sensor. And once you know how to do it, it's 30 seconds of time to change it out. And no, you don't have to be certified to do it. It's no different than changing a plug in a light bulb in a socket. And these little $30 fixes are $130 fixes when you have to call a technician out and do them. If you start messing around with gas, that's a whole different ballgame, and I don't, and you shouldn't either. That's when you need the professionals, the certified people who are insured to do it. Changing out an igniter or a flame sensor, simple thing is, if you do it wrong, the furnace doesn't work anyway. It's already not working. So it's a plug and play. So those are the little things. Fixing a hole in a drywall. Some tenant punches a hole in it. You think, okay, I got to hire somebody to do this. And he comes in, he quotes you $500 to do it. Well, you know what? You go by a job site and see a guy who's drywalling, you ask him, can I have a piece of your scrap? And he looks at you funny, go, I got a hole to fix. He goes, oh yeah, no problem. You bring home a chunk of drywall that's 3x3, cut out what you need, put it in, tape it up, and you're done. You saved yourself hundreds of dollars and trying to collect it off of a tenant, and you've learned a new skill. Those are the things. So I'm going to show you something that I've worked on, or Mac, you can put it up. I've taken my property and give it some curb appeal because I had the time to do it.
Yep. The IT guy got it. Just 1 second there, Chris. I got this IT thing going on. Yep. For you. Oh, no. There you go.
So this is the before and after of my property. And I don't know, Mac, there you go. We got some curb appeal now. I had to grab the picture first thing this morning for the show today. So I do have my junk in the yard in front of it, but that'll be gone. But you know what? When a renter pulls up and sees that, the house looks a little nicer than it did 2 weeks ago, they may be more likely to pick your house. And you know what? The siding and everything cost me $400 and my labor into doing it. Again, I knew how to do it because I've worked with other contractors, but TikTok and YouTube can tell you this stuff. And I still learned little tricks on how to put this stuff up there and how to cut corners properly. So
Chris, I'm going to ask you then. You raised a really good point. I don't know how to do half the things you know how to do. Did you know how to do all this stuff when you were a police officer, or how'd you learn?
You know what? My interest in just being hands-on started back when I was a kid, taking things apart and not knowing how to put it back together. So I took my sister's tricycle apart and couldn't put it back together and lost the screws for it. So I got in a little bit of trouble for that. But anyway, moving forward, I learned how to fix things, and it's just an aptitude to tinker and play. And I encourage you to do that. Start off with your first hole. Go and do it. Call me or text or get a hold of me. I'll tell you some of those tricks, or I'll refer you to the same way I've learned. And today, I'll give you the interior view of the before and after on another show. But I just swapped out the tub and the tub surround to make it look nicer and put in a new vanity. Again, these are all opportunities that I've had to work with contractors and alongside them. I'll tell a guy, "Can I come work for you for free?" He goes, "Why would you want to work for free?" I said, "Because I just want to learn." And I've got some good friends that are contractors, say, "Yeah, sure," and they buy you lunch, and you're a good laborer, and you learn a lot. So I've learned as I went, so I now have the confidence to do it. So my next project on that blue house there at the bottom, which is the same house, I'll be spray painting the side of it white so it matches nicer. But it's been the windows were done last year, and the siding is done this year. So it's about managing your funds that are available to do this stuff. So I like to encourage people to try.
Yeah.
And it looks good, Chris. You did a phenomenal job. I'm going to be devil's advocate here and say, you know what? That looks like it took a long time. And depending on what part of the career you're at, or if you've got time, I've got 2 kids that go to daycare. my wife works. We both work full time from home, so I've done paintings and stuff before. If the job's simple enough, or I know where my areas of strengths are, I'll do some pre-work to speed up the job so I don't get charged as much, depending on what the specific task is at hand. But that's kind of the devil in the details here. Is we all have the same 24 hours in a day, so making that work, and especially if you've got how many properties, right? So Bill, I know in your heyday you had something like 58 bedrooms under your control. How did you handle your repairs? What did you outsource? What did you do yourself? What was your systems around?
Well. So we started as flippers. So we were flipping way back, and we were doing 5 or 6 properties a year for a while, up to 10 properties a year. And one of the early lessons we learned was, I was working full time. We had a couple of young kids. So you'd put your 50 hours in at work, then you'd put your 50 hours in working on properties, and it would take 3 or 4 months to get a property ready. And then you'd take 3 months to sell it. And one of my brilliant real estate investor friends said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Well, putting in this sweat equity. That's where I'm saving all this money." Well, carrying costs were huge on properties for us because you had to get heavy money in all the time. So it was costing us thousands and thousands of dollars to take 5 or 6 months to sell a property. So we did the math, and it's like, well, if we hire somebody and get it done for $7,000 or $10,000 and get it done in a month, and I fill in some of the other areas where I can help out, suddenly we've got the property flipped in 3 or 4 months instead of 6 to 8 months, and it just accelerated things, moved things faster. So ultimately, it comes down to where you are in your life. If you've got the time, like Chris does, you can save tons of money. And it's important to know how to do this stuff, because one of the other things is when we would bring a contractor in, they would say, well, it's a 20-hour job and it's going to cost $3,000. And I could call BS on it and go, it's a 10-hour job and it's going to cost $600. And, if I can do it in 10 hours, somebody who's a professional at this should be able to do it in 7 or 6. Mm-hmm. So let's look at the numbers again and start over, or I'll find somebody else. So it gives you a little more leverage as far as that goes. So ultimately it comes down to the math. What's your time worth? If it's going to take you 3 hours to change out a toilet, and you can have a plumber come in and do it for an hour, and you bill out at $100 an hour, if you can get it done for $150, $200 for the plumber versus a $300, or maybe you need to go look at properties because you're a very active real estate investor and you're buying more properties. If that's the case, you're not making money fixing toilets, you're making money buying new toilets. So figure out where you are.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point there too, is hiring somebody. That siding job that you saw there, I sent a picture to a guy. I told him it's 40 by 12 with the windows. And I asked him, give me a quote on what he's willing to do it for. And he wrote back, he says, $1,200 cash. That to me is clearly, if you're willing to pay $1,200, I'll do it. Otherwise, I really don't want the job, because it was a day job. And you figure in, I'll go full 8 hours, maybe I'll go 10 hours at $60 an hour, $70 an hour. It's only $700. And they bring in the guy. It really wasn't that big of a job, and it can be done quickly. Once the trims are up, everything goes up super fast. So, it just take the time to learn. You say, I think, what was I trying to say is, well, at the end of the day, I'm losing my thoughts here, but because I'm excited about the topic, but take the time to learn it and you'll do fine.
Yeah, on that point, Chris, on the learning side, and this is like you, being an engineer, I love to tinker and learn how to do things with my hands if I have the time. And if you do have the time, actually, there's some great college courses out there that you can take online now. You don't even have to go to class, specifically on home renovations, and a lot of places do offer these. So if you do have the evenings to yourself to learn some of these, you can actually go and learn, the real techniques from professionals.
Yeah. Did you say your previous life you were an engineer?
I was, yeah.
You're one of those guys, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're one of those guys that everybody's swearing at behind the scenes. Okay, I'll leave it at
pretty
that.
Much, yeah. That hasn't stopped today.
Who designed this thing?
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. You know what? We got a live question. Let's wrap it up on that note. We got a few minutes left to get to the top of the hour, and Kimberly asked a question, so let's help her out. My tenant just texted me at 9:30. Must be like during our show. So, or no, that must have been another night because it's not 9:30 yet. Sorry. My tenant just texted me at 9:30 saying the washer wouldn't drain. I went out the next morning and removed the drain pump. Found a pair of underwear and bobby pins stuck in it. Really no fault of the tenant, but saved me 2 hours of labor of a plumber, no doubt, or a new washer. I'm not a tradesperson, but YouTube said if I could. I said I could, and I did. Always check YouTube first. And yeah, you know what? Someone else posted here too. I was kind of jumping this comment twice on the screen here. Is we're in such an information age. Your first, I'm going to say this right now. Your first gut reaction is Google or YouTube or search 3 or 4 sources, because if you check 1 or 2, you might not know which one's right if there's conflicting information. But if you get 3 or 4 and they're all telling you the same message, you know you're probably getting the right information. And there's so many ways nowadays to save that first service call of $150. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, my challenge to you folks out there is if you're going to go do the low flush toilet, low volume water flush, go change it yourself. Go learn. Take your toilet as your first task. Pull it up, see the ugly underneath, clean it up, and put your toilet back on. There's a great little task for you, and you'll be proud of yourself when you're done because you realize, damn, that wasn't that hard.
Yeah. And Chris does drive from Panoka to Calgary once in a while to do toilets. He did help me out earlier this summer. So.
Just for you.
You know what? If you guys ping me, I'll share Chris's number. You can know where to find him. All right.
Well, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Well, folks, thanks for hanging out. Viller, I know you're in the late hours right now out in Ontario there. So thanks for sharing the information. Glad to hear you've got some great changes at Singlekey. We appreciate being your guys' feedback mechanism and making your products better because it again benefits us.
Yeah.
So thanks for maintaining that relationship. And Bill or Chris's uncle Bill, thanks as always for being our co-host on the show.
Nice to be back.
Folks, that's the Alberta Landlord community. We're getting back in gear here as we get into fall, and it's fall freeze. So if you haven't done it already, turn off some outside taps, do the bleeding, get the water on those lines. Also, you're going to have some expensive bills. So don't forget to do that.
See you all next week. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great one.
Night, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.